welcome back to Vlogmas. Today we are talking about books because I read over 60 books this year. If you know me, you know that my whole life I've gone without reading a lot of books. I basically covered Lord of the Rings and that's pretty much it. There were like a few random sprinkled in throughout my life, but this year I read over 60 books and it all started with ACOTAR. Now I am a complete book girly, so I'm not going to talk about all 60 books because I think that would be a little bit too boring, but I am going to talk about like 43-ish books. Let's review some books I read this year. Let's talk about them. I had an idea. I'm going to talk about all the books, and then at the end of this video I am going to show you all my favorite books from the year, and along the way I want you to guess which ones you think I'm going to put in that pile of my favorite books of the year. And if you're looking for your next read for 2025, you might find it here. I read a lot of popular books this year. I'm just going to throw that out there just so that you're aware. So because of my origin story, we have to start with ACOTAR. That's only appropriate. I have this cute little box set here. Thank you, Sarah J. Maas. Wow. How am I supposed to summarize this into words? Wow. So this is ACOTAR. 3 of these books are 5 stars for me. This is a novella. It doesn't need to exist for me. I don't care about it. ACOTAR is a good book. I gave it 4 stars. Pretty sure everybody I know would say that A Court of Wings and Ruin is the best book in this series. I don't know which book is my absolute favorite because I do love ACOWAR. It's so good. But A Course of Mist and Fury, oh my gosh, my heart melted. Like, I discovered my first book boyfriend, so I have an emotional attachment to this book. I loved it so much. And oh my goodness, A Court of Silver Flames. A moment of silence for this book. And there's a lot of smut to get through, but between the smut, oh my goodness, so good. Some of the smut, also good. Let's talk about these. Now, these are different books, different authors, but they have like the same story. And I really like them. I don't know which one I like more than the other. This one is definitely more like TikTok popular. This one is lesser known. And this one has a second book now, which I have not read. But both good books. I'd say like 3.5 stars for me. A lot of flip-floppy timelines, so you gotta really focus when you're reading these. That confused the heck out of me when I started reading it. I literally just finished reading this book like yesterday. I actually did the audiobook, I should say. This book, it's marked as a thriller, which it is, but you literally will not realize that you're reading a thriller until the last like 20% of the book. In the last like 8% of the book, you will get all the action and everything will tie together. So if you're somebody who wants like a slow burn of a story, this is for you. If you're like not, if you need something throughout, you're not gonna find it here. But I would say it's like worth a read. Definitely a 3-star for me. None of This Is True was my first time doing a buddy read, and I love buddy reads. This is another thriller. I discovered my love for thrillers this year. I mean, like, obviously I only discovered that now because I just started reading, but I have something in my eye. There are these 2 birthday twins that meet in a restaurant. This one girl has a podcast and wants to interview the other, and a lot of things unravel. This is such a fun story. I really enjoyed this. I'll give it 4 stars. This is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and this book made me realize that I love gothic books. I also learned this year that I like books that are about fairy tales, and this is like a fairy tale infused gothic tragic friendship story. Very interesting. Would recommend. It's not very long, so easy read. 4 stars. I read every single Holly Jackson book this year, which, like, no big deal, but I think that's kind of cool. The worst book for me out of all of them was 5 Survive. I would never care to read that again, and I wouldn't give it to anybody. It wasn't bad, but just not a lot happened. I'd put that in my 3-star pile. For the rest of these, I think this is my next lowest one for Holly. This is a good book, but I just preferred A Good Girl's Guide to Murder than this. If you've read these, this is worth a read, but if you haven't read these, I would choose these. Also, there's a show that you can watch about Good Girls Guide to Murder, but I really preferred the books. Killjoy is a cute little novella, but I can kind of do without it, but these 3 books, so good. The 3rd book in this series really like changed the whole series for me. It was crazy, so I definitely think you should read them all. But honestly, even if you just read the first one, I think you'd be pretty like happy with your decision because there's a lot of plot twists and it's fun to follow along. It's fun to guess. My friend and I made our own like little murder boards guessing. I'm trying to summarize things quickly and I'm not really good at summarizing things, so I apologize. But let's keep going. Six of Crows and Crooked King. Oh my goodness. Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. That is really hard for me to say. From the Grishaverse. Wow, I was really hyped about these, and honestly, I don't think I was prepared for like how these were written because they're a lot more advanced than the other books that I have talked about. But once I got used to it, it was a lot easier for me to understand, and I really love these books. I think I'm gonna have to reread them for sure just so that I can like soak it all in. But wow, I found out of most of the books I read this year, the characters in this really had like the deepest story to them, and it's about a group of people who came together for a really dangerous heist, which is really exciting. So it is very action-packed. This is the Caraval series, and I listened to the first 2 books on audio, and I read the last book. Wow, I'm a big Stephanie Garber fan, and when I first read the descriptions of these books, I thought it would maybe be a little bit too YA for me, but nope, it's not. I loved these books, and I only read it because there's a character from these books that are in Stephanie Garber's other series, and I love that character, and I read that series first, so I wanted to go back and learn about more of his history. Characters I was introduced to in this series, I ended up falling in love with, even though I hated them at the beginning. So it was a little bit of enemies to lovers for myself. There are these games that travel around called Caraval, and there is a games master named Legend. And whoever wins the game, Legend will give them like a once-in-a-lifetime magical gift. But you have to remember that it's only a game. Okay, so next we're going to talk about more Stephanie Garber, Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Oh my goodness, this series is incredible. The Ballad of Never After actually changed my life. This series was so good. I recommend it to anybody and everybody. Even if you don't want to read Caraval, you don't have to. These books are so much fun. This is for anybody who loves any fairy tale elements, forbidden love. Oh, it's so good. I want to reread this too. I have so many books that I want to read in 2025, but I also have so many rereads I want to do. Where do I find the time? Obviously, I had to read this book, and I'm pretty sure I read this right after I read ACOTAR, and I have not read Iron Flame, even though I do own it. And there's a new book coming out in 2025 on Onyx Storm. Fourth Wing, I read immediately after ACOTAR, and I was not as obsessed from the start as my friends were, and I was really concerned. But when I actually got into it, I was like, oh, okay, this is sick. I think like the military stuff kind of like threw me off just because I had just come out of like a Fae world. Fourth Wing is a 4-star for me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to keep reading, although I haven't read Iron Flame because I'm so nervous about the reviews that I've already seen. I kind of just want to stick to this one for now. Is anyone else overwhelmed with how many books I've talked about? I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, let's talk about the Shepherd King duology. Rachel Gillig, I love you. I would literally make a blood pact to read every single book that you write. Obsessed. One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns. Amazing. I love it. I love the fairy tale elements. I love the magic. The system of magic in these books is like literally the coolest thing ever. Obsessed. If you haven't read these, you need to devour them immediately. This also gave me Venom vibes. If anybody is a big fan of Venom, then you should probably also read this. Heartless Hunter. I took a day trip to Niagara with some friends of mine, and I'm obviously from Niagara. Actually, I don't know if that's obvious. Why did I say that? But anyways, the author of this book is from Niagara, and so we found this in a little cafe, and it was like, oh, a local author, and I was like, okay, cute, pick it up. Unbelievable. Witches, Witch Hunter, oh my goodness, you got to read. If you want to feel empowered, if you just want some like feminine rage, oh, so good. Powerless. Okay, wow, this book is so pretty, which is why I wanted to read it in the first place. But it's more than just pretty, it's a damn good book. And I gotta say, okay, any Hunger Games fans out there? Hi, yeah, I only read the first book and I don't like the movies, and I'm sorry, don't hate me, or do. But Powerless is apparently like the Hunger Games. However, I found them very Lord of the Rings, and I love Lord of the Rings, so it's a must. I feel like this series fits in quite nicely to talk about next. So, Belladonna. I'm actually reading Wisteria right now. I am like 50% through. Loving it. Honestly, Belladonna, I think this series is a must read. I adore it. It's very gothic, Victorian setting. There's a girl named Signa, and since she was a baby, death has followed her around. And whoo, my goodness, there's so much to get into here. Belladonna was great. I would say like a 4.5 star for me. Foxglove was a 5-star, and Wisteria, I'm 50% through, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 5-star. All right, we started with ACOTAR, and we are ending this on the Throne of Glass series. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I went from never reading ever to finishing like an 8-book series. I hope you're proud, Mom. Where do I begin? I don't even know what to say. I loved all of these books, and even the books that other people weren't enjoying, I really enjoyed. If you can tell by this, I did the tandem read for Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. Tower of Dawn is a lot slower, more romantic. Empire of Storms is a lot of war action. So reading these in tandem is a nice little way to break up the story, but the timelines move at the same pace. However, Tower of Dawn, a lot of people don't like, I think because it's so boring, but I love Tower of Dawn too. For my favorites out of this series, oh my goodness, I don't even know. I love Crown of Midnight, and I loved Kingdom of Ash. It literally broke me. Honestly, I love Throne of Glass. The Assassin's Blade, by the way. Wow, you really gotta like, I feel like because I didn't read it first, which I have a separate video on, if you need me to talk about it more in depth, I can do that as well. I think because I didn't read it first, I really enjoyed it more because I had read parts of the stories and then it all tied in when I read Assassin's Blade, and it was so good. And I cannot believe that Sarah J Maas wrote this when she was so young and was able to put that all together. Oh my goodness, she like just made like a puzzle in books, and like, oh! If you made it this far in the video, good job. I don't know how you could listen to me talk. I know I couldn't. But let's talk about my top reads of the year. Are you ready to see the reveal of my top reads? Boom, baby. These books plus 3 of these books that I'm a little bit too lazy to take out. Aquawar, Akamath, and those books plus these books, oh my goodness, this was really hard to choose. I'm not gonna lie. I really don't like making decisions, but I made decisions for you. Sorry if you're thinking I made too many decisions, but they're all so good. This book, incredible, loved it. However, you do have to read the series to understand this book. This book literally crushed me as a person. It was so good. Again, you gotta read like 7 books before this, so good luck. This duology, yes, both books made it into this because I don't know which one I like better. They're both like 5.5, 6 stars for me. Like, they're just so damn good. If you could not tell, I'm obsessed with this book. I literally cannot express how obsessed I am with this book. It is so good. I think this will forever just be one of my like top reads ever. Guys, I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings, so like Powerless really just did it in for me. This was such a good book, and I know that not everybody agrees with that, but I don't care, man. I loved it. It's true to me. And Foxglove, I'm just obsessed with Belladonna as a whole, and this book just had so much happen, and I definitely think I need to reread it because so much happens in it that like I don't think you can grasp it all the first time, or at least I certainly cannot. Wow, all right, we did it. We talked about like 400,000 books, and that's not even all the ones I read this year. It's crazy. Most of them I read. I did a couple audiobooks here and there, as you heard me talk about. I definitely prefer reading, but audiobooks are really helpful when like I'm making the kids lunch and I can just like listen. Damn girl. Damn girl. I'm excited to see what 2025 brings me. I already have a lot of books lined up that I want to get through. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but I will see you in the next one. Bye.